and a good morning to you all bookworms here and Early Gang, who is joining me for a last Jane Eyre read-along. Your chatting magpie here, so excited to reach the conclusion of Jane Eyre. I hope you're excited as well. It has been quite a journey, you guys, and I hope that for those of you who hadn't read this book before, that you enjoyed yourselves, that you enjoyed this book, one of my favorites of all time. And I don't know, that it's fun reading it with other people. I think we can all say that Jane's story has been quite a roller coaster, right? We got started with Jane being a little orphan girl, 10 years old, in her unloving aunt's house, being banished to live in an institution, a charitable institution, where despite all things, she thrived. She grew up to become a teacher there. But that was not enough for Jane, who has quite a bit of spirit, and she wants to explore the wide world. So she went on to go and become a governess over at Thornfield, where she met, oh, shock, gasp, the love of her life, Rochester, right? Who is her employer, who was absolutely everything that Jane is not. Jane is small, poor, she knows herself. She knows she has a strength of character. She's not a priggish kind of person, because she's not preaching to you religion left and right and being hypocritical about it. She's like, no, I have my own set of convictions that I will live by, but she's still very much human. She wants the things that people want. Like, she wants a family, she wants love, and she is a spitfire when you get her riled up. So anyway, despite the differences between her and Rochester, they fell in love and they were gonna get married, except that at the altar, oh boy, super dramatic, we find out that he is married still to a crazy woman, by the name of Byronic, who he had married way back in his youth. But it was a secret marriage, I guess. He kept it as secret as he could. And so Jane had to decide whether she was going to still stay with Rochester in an unlawful union and become his mistress, or whether she was going to stick to her principles and leave him. So she did leave him. And at first it seemed that things were going to go awful for her. We actually feared for her life. She was wandering off without food, without shelter. But she was taken up by some random strangers who revitalized her, healed her up. But these seemingly kind strangers actually turned out to be her cousins. And so one of these cousins was one called St. John, whom everybody here in this live chat will no doubt have many things to say about this fellow. But anyway, St. John, very unlike Rochester in so many aspects, and absolutely almost every aspect. He also, except the fact that he wanted to marry Jane, but not for love, but for duty. Yes, indeed, he proposed to her lawful matrimony so she could join him in India as a missionary. So luckily for all of us and for Jane, she was able to get out of that entanglement, but she does need to know what is Rochester's fate. So far, God has been very good to her. During this time away from him, she has found a new job. She did not die destitute by some ditch on the side of the road. No, she found a family. She also learned that her uncle had passed away and he had left her a huge fortune, which she split between her cousins. So she's an heiress. Her life is looking well, but she still needs to know what's happening with Rochester. And so she went back to Thornfield where she found it burnt down. She learns that it burnt down. Bertha, the insane wife, burnt it down. Rochester tried to save her, tried to save everybody, and he did. Though not Bertha, she jumped to her death from this third story, from the rooftop of the building. And Rochester, on his way back down, he had some beams fall on top of him, and he had a hand amputated, and an eye was he basically has no he's blind. So that is a TLDR, you guys, and I am sure that those of you who listen to the read-alongs, all 24 read-alongs, can know that there's several details that I skipped. But if you haven't read this book, I suggest you give it a chance. You may want to listen to these read-alongs, or you can just read it yourself. But you know, it's a fun story, and it makes you think about, you know, stuff. So today I wanna just finish this book. We have 2 chapters. It might be a little, this read along might be a little on the long side. It is going to be probably close to noon by the time I finish. So just brace yourselves, get some snacks. I probably will need to get more water. I'm halfway through my teacup right now. So sometime between the first and the second chapter, I'll run to get extra water. But other than that, you guys, I am so ready, and I'm happy to see people in the chat. I want to say welcome to Red Tempest, who says, "Down with St. John, run, Jane, run." That's right, she ran, and we'll see if she mentions St. John again. I don't know, you guys. Right now, she has only one man in her mind, and it's her man. So go get your man, Jane. Red Tempest also says, wait, the book is called Jane Eyre, not Jane Eyre Wacky Adventures. Midpoint, this is a Victorian novel and a Gothic novel, which gives it a certain, I don't know what, like, kind of like spookiness. And it has spookiness, it has dramatic incidents, lots of coincidences. That's kind of like what gives Gothic romance novels its flair. And speaking of Gothic romance novels, you guys, I wanted to read a book, one of my favorite books, because I was like, okay, Jane Eyre was absolutely amazing. I love it. But I think I should lighten it up before I go into Persuasion, because that's also not a very heavy book, but it's also along the lines of Jane Eyre. So I'm thinking of reading another book for you guys. The only drawback, though, is that they don't, like, this book was published back in, I don't know, 1970 something. So 1, it's not public domain. 2, it is out of print. And 3, they don't have an ebook version of it. So if I were to read it, I would probably have to do it like, you guys remember when I would get out my cell phone and just stream from my cell phone? It would probably have to be that way. And I don't know if you guys are down for that. It is an amazing book. I love it. I actually, there's very few books that I own on physical because I just don't have space. But this is one of those books that I'm like, I have moved several homes and I discard stuff left and right every time I move. But this book is one of those books I will never toss out, never give away, never lend, because it's just super fun, and it has a really close place in my heart. But anyway, I'm still thinking about it. I probably will try to see if there's a way I can digitalize this book before I start reading it. I don't know. We'll see. So anyway, you guys, happy to see you guys here. Also, I see Blockstrot is with us. Using a bleep filter. What I have to say about John is beep, 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 beep. Now, is that actual Morse code? Because I can't read Morse code. Where is Jonathan when we need him? He knows Morse code. Let me see. Let me copy and paste. I am very curious to see what you have to say about that. Okay. I probably will not be able to see. Let me see. What is it? Never mind. I probably should spend my time better doing some other stuff. So Akihana, I have not forgotten you. You were very first person on the chat. Early Gang says, here comes the finale. Shame it's scheduled at 1 a.m. Philippines time. I'm so sorry, darling. You said you went to the gym today, so you thought you'll be able to escape from Schlaftrum's warm embrace for this session. All right, I hope you enjoyed the replay, and do share with us your thoughts. Oh, I always look forward to reading them. You wonder, you're right. I do wonder how the reunion will be. Will Jane tell Rochester that she's found her paternal cousins? Or how will Rochester react should he discover about St. John's marriage proposal? Ooh. Well, this is where it gets interesting. You will have to keep on listening as I read the next 2 chapters. Crusher says, no, my message is gone. Oh no, Crusher, when did you write your message? Unfortunately, I did schedule this sometime late last night, so I don't know if it deleted it after midnight. I don't know. YouTube is being YouTube. But I'm happy that you're here. At least that you were here. I don't know if you are listening. All right, so I'm excited. We're all excited. Also, Little Butterfly, I hope you enjoyed the replay. So sorry you couldn't make it, but I hope that you are doing well wherever you are. All right, you guys, enough chitter chatter. I know I'm the chattering magpie, but you guys did come here to read some books, so we are going to continue reading right now. Oops, sorry. There we go. Chapter 37, Jane Eyre. The manor house of Ferndean was a building of considerable antiquity, moderate size, and no architectural pretensions, deep buried in a wood. I had heard of it before. Mr. Rochester often spoke of it and sometimes went there. His father had purchased the estate for the sake of game covers. He would have left the house, but could find he would have let the house, that is, put it up for rent. He would have let the house, but could find no tenant, in consequence of its ineligible and insalubrious site. Ferndean then remained uninhabited and unfurnished, with the exception of some 2 or 3 rooms fitted up for the accommodation of the squire when he went there in the season to shoot. To this house I came just ere dark on an evening marked by the characteristics of sad sky, cold gale, and continued small penetrating rain. The last mile I performed on foot, having dismissed the chaise and the driver with the remuneration I had promised. Even when within a very short distance of the manor house, you could see nothing of it, so thick and dark grew the timber of the gloomy wood about it. Iron gates between granite pillars showed me where to enter, and passing through them, I found myself at once in the twilight of close-ranked trees. There was a grass-grown track descending the forest aisle between hoar and knotty shafts and under branched arches. I followed it, expecting soon to reach the dwelling, but it stretched on and on. It wound far and further. No sign of habitation or grounds was visible. I thought I had taken a wrong direction and lost my way. The darkness of natural as well as of Sylvian dusk gathered over me. I looked round in search of another road. There was none. All was interwoven stem, columnar trunk, dense summer foliage. No openings anywhere. I proceeded. At last my way opened. The trees thinned a little. Presently I beheld a railing, then the house, scarce by this dim light, distinguishable from the trees, so dank and green were its decaying walls. Entering a portal, fastened only by a latch, I stood amidst a space of enclosed ground, from which the wood swept away in a semicircle. There were no flowers, no garden beds, only a broad gravel walk girdling a glass plat, and this set in the heavy frame of the forest. The house presented 2 pointed gables in its front. The windows were latticed and narrow. The front door was narrow too. 1 step led up to it. The whole looked, as the host of the Rochester Arms had said, quite a desolate spot. It was still as a church on a weekday. The pattering rain on the forest leaves were the only sound audible in its vicinage. "Can there be life here?" I asked. Yes, life of some kind there was, for I heard a movement. That narrow front door was unclosing, and some shape was about to issue from the grange. It opened slowly. A figure came out into the twilight and stood on the step. A man without a hat. He stretched forth his hand as if to feel whether it rained. Dusk as it was, I had recognized him. It was my master, Edward Fairfax Rochester, and no other. I stayed my step, almost my breath, and stood to watch him, to examine him, myself unseen and, alas, to him invisible. It was a sudden meeting, and one in which rapture was kept well in check by pain. I had no difficulty in restraining my voice from exclamation, my step from hasty advance. His form was of the same strong and stalwart contour as ever. His port was still erect. His hair was still raven black, nor were his features altered or sunk. Not in 1 year's space, by any sorrow, could his athletic strength be quelled, or his vigorous prime blighted. But in his countenance I saw a change that looked desperate and brooding, that reminded me of some wronged and fettered wild beast or bird, dangerous to approach in his sullen woe. The caged eagle whose gold-ringed eyes cruelty has extinguished might look as looked that sightless Samson. And, reader, do you think I feared him in his blind ferocity? If you do, you little know me. A soft hope, blessed with my sorrow, that soon I should dare drop a kiss on that brow of rock, and on those lips so sternly sealed beneath it. But not yet. I would not accost him yet. He descended 1 step, and advanced slowly and gropingly towards the glass plat. Where was his daring stride now? Then he paused, as if he knew not which way to turn. He lifted his hand and opened his eyelids, gazed blank, and with a straining effort on the sky, and toward the amphitheater of trees. One saw that all to him was void darkness. He snatched his right hand. The left arm, the mutilated one, he kept hidden in his bosom. He seemed to wish by touch to gain an idea of what lay around him. He met but vacancy still, for the trees were some yards off where he stood. He relinquished the endeavor, folded his arms, and stood quiet and mute in the rain, now falling fast on his uncovered head. At this moment John approached him from some quarter. "Will you take my arm, sir?" he said. "There is some heavy shower coming on. Had you not better go in?" "Let me alone," was the answer. John withdrew without having observed me. Mr. Rochester now tried to walk about, vainly. All was too uncertain. He groped his way back to the house, and, re-entering it, closed the door. I now drew near and knocked. John's wife opened for me. "Mary," I said, "how are you?" She started as if she had seen a ghost. I calmed her. To her hurried, "Is it really you, miss? Come at this late hour to this lonely place?" I answered by taking her hand, and then I followed her into the kitchen, where John now sat by a good fire. I explained to them in few words that I had heard all which had happened since I left Thornfield, and that I was come to see Mr. Rochester. I asked John to go down to the turnpike house, where I had dismissed the chaise, and bring my trunk, which I had left there. And then, while I removed my bonnet and shawl, I questioned Mary as to whether I could be accommodated at the manor house for the night, and finding that arrangements to that effect, though difficult, would not be impossible, I informed her I should stay. Just at that moment, the parlour bell rang. "When you go in," said I, "tell your master that a person wishes to speak to him, but do not give my name." "I don't think he'll see you," she answered. "He refuses everybody." When she returned, I inquired what he had said. "You're to send in your name and your business," she replied. She then proceeded to fill a glass with water and place it on a tray, together with candles. "Is that what he rang for?" I asked. "Yes, he always has candles brought in at dark, though he is blind." Give the tray to me. I will carry it in. I took it from her hand. She pointed me out the parlor door. The tray shook as I held it. The water spilled from the glass. My heart struck my ribs loud and fast. Mary opened the door for me and shut it behind me. This parlor looked gloomy. A neglected handful of fire burnt low in the grate, and leaning over it with his head supported against the high old-fashioned mantelpiece, appeared the blind tenant of the room. His old dog, Pilot, lay on one side, removed out of the way and coiled up as if afraid of being inadvertently trodden upon. "Ah, poor Pilot." Pilot pricked up his ears when I came in. "Oh, precious Pilot." I love Pilot, you guys. He's a good dog. Sorry. Pilot pricked up his ears when I came in. Then he jumped up with a yelp and a whine and bounded toward me. He almost knocked the tray down from my hands. I set it on the table, then patted him, and said softly, "Lie down." Mr. Rochester turned mechanically to see what the commotion was, but he saw nothing. He returned and sighed. "Give me the water, Mary," he said. I approached him with the now only half-filled glass. Pilot followed me, still excited. "What is the matter?" "Down, Pilot," I again said. He checked the water on his way to his lips, and seemed to listen. He drank and put the glass down. "This is you, Mary, is it not?" "Mary is in the kitchen," I answered. He put his hand out with a quick gesture, but not seeing where I stood, he did not touch me. "Who is this? Who is this?" he demanded, trying, as it seemed, to see with those sightless eyes. An unavailing and distressing attempt. "Answer me! Speak again!" he ordered imperiously and aloud. "Will you have a little more water, sir? I spilled half of what was in the glass," I said. "Who is it? What is it? Who speaks?" "Pilot knows me, and John and Mary know I am here. I came only this evening," I answered. "Great God! What delusion has come over me? What sweet madness has seized me?" "No delusion, no madness. Your mind, sir, is too strong for delusion. Your health too sound for frenzy. And where's the speaker? Is it only a voice? Oh, I cannot see, but I must feel, or my heart will stop and my brain burst. Whoever you are, be perceptible to the touch, or I cannot live." He groped. I arrested his wandering hand and imprisoned it in both mine. Her very fingers, her small slight fingers. If so, there must be more of her. The muscular hand broke from my custody. My arm was seized, my shoulder, neck, waist. I was entwined and gathered to him. "Is it Jane? What is it? This is her shape. This is her size. And this is her voice," I added. "She is all here. Her heart, too. God bless you, sir. I am glad to be so near you again." Jane Eyre, was all he said. "My dear master," I answered, "I am Jane Eyre. I have found you out. I am come back to you." "In truth? In the flesh? My living Jane?" "You touch me, sir. You hold me, and fast enough. I am not cold like a corpse, nor vacant like air, am I? My living darling! These are certainly her limbs, and these her features. But I cannot be so blessed after all my misery. Is it a dream? Such dreams as I have had at night, when I have clasped her once more to my heart as I do now, and kissed her as thus, and felt that she loved me, and trusted that she would not leave me. Which I never will, sir, from this day." "Never will," says the vision. "But I always woke and found it an empty mockery, and I was desolate and abandoned, my life dark, lonely, hopeless, my soul athirst and forbidden to drink, my heart famished and never to be fed. Gentle, soft dream, nestling in my arms now, you will fly too, as your sisters have all fled before you. But kiss me before you go. Embrace me, Jane." "There, sir, and there." I pressed my lips to his once brilliant and now rayless eyes. I swept his hair from his brow and kissed that too. He suddenly seemed to arouse himself. The conviction of the reality of all this seized him. "It is you, is it, Jane? You're come back to me, then?" "I am." "And you do not lie dead in some ditch under some stream, and you are not pining outcast among strangers?" "No, sir. I am an independent woman now." "Independent? What do you mean, Jane?" "My uncle in Madeira is dead, and he left me £5,000. "Ah, this is practical. This is real," he cried. "I should never dream that. Besides, there's that peculiar voice of hers, so animating and piquant, as well as soft. It cheers my withered heart. It puts life into it." "What? Janet, are you an independent woman? A rich woman?" "If you don't let me live with you, I can build a house of my own up close to your... No. I can build a house of my own close up to your door, and you may come and sit in my parlor when you want company of an evening." "But, as you're rich, Jane, you have no doubt friends who will look after you, and not suffer you to devote yourself to a blind lamenter like me." "I told you I am independent, sir, as well as rich. I am my own mistress." "And you will stay with me?" "Certainly, unless you object. I will be your neighbor, your nurse, your housekeeper. I find you lonely. I will be your companion to read to you, to walk with you, to sit with you, to wait on you, to be eyes and hands to you. Cease to look so melancholy, my dear master. You shall not be left desolate so long as I live." He replied not. He seemed serious, abstracted. He sighed. He half opened his lips as if to speak. He closed them again. I felt a little embarrassed. Perhaps I had too rashly overleaped conventionalities, and he, like St. John, saw impropriety in my inconsiderateness. I had indeed made my proposal from the idea that he wished and would ask me to be his wife. An expectation, not the less certain because unexpressed, had buoyed me up, that he would claim me at once as his own. But no hint to that effect escaping him, and his countenance becoming more overcast, I suddenly remembered that I might have been all wrong, and was perhaps playing the fool unwittingly. Poor Jane, she's like, did he change his mind? Does he not want to marry me after all? Yeah, that's kind of embarrassing. Has Rochester no longer any wish to marry her? Oh boy, oh boy. I suddenly remembered that I might have been all wrong, and was perhaps playing the fool unwittingly, and I began gently to withdraw myself from his arms. But he eagerly snatched me closer. "No, no, Jane, you must not go. No, I have touched you, heard you, felt the comfort of your presence, the sweetness of your consolation. I cannot give up these joys. I have little left in myself. I must have you. The world may laugh, may call me absurd, selfish, but it does not signify. My very soul demands you. It will be satisfied, or it will take deadly vengeance on its frame." "Well, sir, I will stay with you. I have said so." "Yes, but you understand one thing by staying with me, and I understand another. You perhaps could make up your mind to be about my hand and chair, to wait on me as a kind little nurse, for you have an affectionate heart and a generous spirit, which prompt you to make sacrifices for those you pity. And that ought to suffice for me, no doubt. I suppose I should now entertain none but fatherly feelings for you. Do you think so? Come, tell me." "I will think what you like, sir. I am content to be only your nurse if you think it better." "But you cannot always be my nurse, Janet. You are young. You must marry one day." "I don't care about being married." "You should care, Janet. If I were what I once was, I would try to make you care, but a sightless block." He relapsed again into gloom. I, on the contrary, became more cheerful and took fresh courage. These last words gave me an insight as to where the difficulty lay, and as it was no difficulty with me, I felt quite relieved from my previous embarrassment. I resumed a livelier vein of conversation. "It is some time Now, it is time someone undertook to rehumanize you, said I, parting his thick and long uncut locks. For I see you are being metamorphosed into a lion or something of that sort. You have a full air of Nebuchadnezzar in the fields about you, that is certain. Your hair reminds me of eagles' feathers. Whether your nails are grown like birds' claws or not, I have not yet noticed. On this arm, I have neither hand nor nails, he said, drawing the mutilated limb from his breast and showing it to me. It is a mere stump. A ghastly sight, don't you think so, Jane? It is a pity to see it, and a pity to see your eyes and the scar of fire on your forehead. And the worst of it is, one is in danger of loving you too well for all this and making too much of you. I thought you would be revolted, Jane, when you saw my arm and my cicatrised visage. Did you? Don't tell me so, lest I should say something disparaging about your judgment. Now, let me leave you an instant to make a better fire and have the hearth swept up. Can you tell when there is a good fire? Yes. With the right eye I can see a glow, a ruddy haze. And you see the candles? Very dimly. Each is a luminous cloud. Can you see me? No, my fairy, but I'm only too thankful to hear and feel you. When do you take supper? I never take supper. But you shall have some tonight. I am hungry. So are you, I dare say, only you forget. Summoning Mary, I soon had the room in more cheerful order. I prepared him likewise a comfortable repast. My spirits were excited, and with pleasure and ease I talked to him during supper, and for a long time after. There was no harassing restraint, nor repressing of glee and vivacity with him. For with him I was at perfect ease, because I knew I suited him. All I said or did seemed either to console or revive him. Delightful consciousness! It brought to life and light my whole nature. In his presence I thoroughly lived, and he lived in mine. Blind as he was, smiles played over his face, joy dawned on his forehead, his lineaments softened and warmed. After supper, he began to ask me many questions of where I had been, what I had been doing, how I had found him out, but I gave him only very partial replies. It was too late to enter into particulars that night. Besides, I wished to touch no deep thrilling chord, to open no fresh well of emotion in his heart. My sole present aim was to cheer him. Cheered, as I have said, he was, and yet but by fits. If a moment's silence broke the conversation, he would turn restless, touch me, and say, Jane. You're altogether a human being, Jane. You are certain of that? I conscientiously believe so, Mr. Rochester. Yet, how on this dark and doleful evening could you so suddenly rise on my lone hearth? I stretched my hand to take a glass of water from a hireling, and it was given me by you. I asked a question, expecting John's wife to answer me, and your voice spoke in my ear. Because I had come in Mary's stead with the tray. And there is the enchantment in the very hour I am now spending with you. Who can tell what dark, dreary, hopeless life I have dragged on for months past, doing nothing, expecting nothing, merging night in day, feeling but the sensation of cold when I let the fire go out, or hunger when I forgot to eat, and then a ceaseless sorrow, and at times a very delirium of desire to behold my Jane again. Yes, for her restoration I longed, far more than for that of my lost sight. How can it be that Jane is with me, and says she loves me? Will she not depart as suddenly as she came? Tomorrow I fear I shall find her no more. A commonplace, practical reply, out of the train of his own disturbed idea, was, I was sure, the best and most reassuring for him in this frame of mind. I passed my finger over his eyebrows, and remarked that they were scorched, and that I would apply something which would make them grow as broad and black as ever. Where's the use of doing me good in any way, beneficent spirit, when at some fatal moment you will again desert me, passing like a shadow, whither and how to me unknown, and for me remaining afterwards indiscoverable? Have you a pocket comb about you, sir? What for, Jane? Just to comb out this shaggy black mane. After find you rather alarming when I examine you close at hand. You talk of me being a fairy, but I am sure you're more like a brownie. Am I hideous, Jane? Very, sir. You always were, you know. The wickedness has not been taken out of you, wherever you have sojourned. Yet I have been with good people, far better than you, 100 times better people, possessed of ideas and views you never entertained in your life, quite more refined and exalted. Who the deuce have you been with? If you twist in that way, you will make me pull the hair out of your head, and then I will think you will cease to entertain doubts of my substantiality. Who have you been with, Jane? You shall not get it out of me tonight, sir. You must wait till tomorrow to leave my tale half told. To leave my tale half told will, you know, be a sort of security that I shall appear at your breakfast table to finish it. By the by, I must mind not. Okay. By the by, I must mind not to rise on your hearth with only a glass of water then. I must bring an egg at least, to say nothing of fried ham. You mocking changeling, fairy born and human bred. You make me feel as I have not felt these 12 months. If Saul could have had you for his David, the evil spirit would have been exorcised without the aid of a harp. There, sir, you're now readied up and made decent. Now I'll leave you. I have been traveling these last 3 days, and I believe I am tired. Good night. Just one word, Jane. Were there only ladies in the house where you have been? Yeah, that's a very important question, Rochester. I laughed and made my escape, still laughing as I ran upstairs. A good idea, I thought with glee. I see I have the means of frightening him out of his melancholy for some time to come. Let's see. Blockshot says, who's a good boy? Yes, Pilot. Pilot is a very good boy. Yes, Pilot is a really good boy. And also says, Jane's ultimatum. You have 2 options. Live with me or accept that I will live near you. Right? I don't know, Rochester. I think you lucked out right there. Because Jane loves you despite you being blind, despite the fact that you almost tricked her into a bigamous marriage, she still loves you. Despite everything, she still loves you. Despite you being blind and having no hand, she still loves you. And despite it all, she still wants to live with you and propose matrimony on her own terms. Yeah. Well, let's continue on. So right now, it's kind of... Okay, hold on a second. I guess it's time to just kind of do like a little pause here, just for me to kind of talk about my impressions here of the reunion, you guys. So, Rochester, we see him, he is just not in a good place. He has literally been abandoned. He has abandoned himself. He's in the middle of nowhere in this damp place. Remember, you guys, he spoke that he had a manor place that he could have left Bertha in to die. Like, he knew that if he could have brought Bertha to Ferndean Manor, locked her up there, nobody would have known about her. And, you know, the fact that it's so cold and damp, she would have eventually gotten ill and died. And he would have been like, you know what? That's fine by me. But his conscience was like, I'm not gonna leave her in a place where she will for sure die. And yet, how ironic is it that when Thornfield burns down, that is the place where he goes. I don't know. It's just kind of, it's a really sad reversal. We have Rochester, who had been so proud and so confident in his own strength, now in Ferndean Manor, now being the one that needs to be kept in watch. Somebody has to look after him. Somebody has to, and he's in a similar position almost as Bertha. He's locked up, or he locked himself up in Ferndean Manor. I don't know, you guys. I feel that he needed to pay for his sins, but this is just really quite a bit, and I don't wish Rochester any more suffering. He already had, like, when I asked you guys last read along, like, do you guys think that was like losing his eyesight, losing a hand was enough, or like enough like payback or whatever, justice? And some of you seem to think that it was a lot. Like he went through a lot, and I'm glad, because I think that we're on the same wavelength here. Like I was angry and upset at Rochester for what he did, but really he's paying for it. Boy, is he paying for it. So all that matters is to see where he stands right now. He is in a very melancholy mood. But you know, the other alternative was him losing himself in Europe to debauchery, to pleasures, and just what Jane feared the most. Luckily, or I guess Providence made it so that he didn't. He ended up staying in England. Also, let's just talk about after just this comparison. I can't help you guys but compare Rochester and St. John, like, throughout this whole exchange, you guys. Because St. John, like, we had about, I don't know, 10 chapters, 8 chapters, I don't know how many chapters of St. John, and we just got used to his cold, his practical, his very pragmatic approach to relationships. And after hearing all his BS about Jane not being formed for love, how Jane seeking to have a family and to have love and to, you know, those things that are bad. After hearing all these things about these lies spewing from St. John's mouth, just hearing Rochester talk about Jane, it's so heartwarming, you guys. Like, oh my gosh, did you guys catch the line that said, during all this time that he was blind and he had no purpose, nothing, like he was mostly tormented by the thought and worry about what had happened to Jane. He said, I would have given, like, if I could, I would much rather have news that Jane Eyre is here, that Jane Eyre is, let me see, da 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 da. Yeah. There we go. He said, for her restoration, I longed far more than that of my lost sight. Like, oh my gosh, you guys, that is love. If that is not love, I don't know, you guys. All he wanted was to know that she was maybe not restored to him, but at least that she was alive. I don't know, just so sweet. I don't know. In his own, you know, rough way, I think that's as sweet as we're gonna get from Rochester. But it's very moving coming from somebody who was so proud. We know that he hates being dependent on people. He would, because he's so proud. But so having his sight restored would make him again be independent of, you know, having to be led about. But more than his independence, he wanted Jane back. Yeah, you guys, that's, yeah, I don't know, just putting it out there. Oh yes, I know. Red Tempest, she didn't tell him about her boy cousin. Oh, but she's getting ideas now about how she can rouse him up from melancholy. And she will, don't worry, she will. And you'll see how he'll take it. Some people need to lose their eyesight to finally be able to see. That's a very very deep thought right there you shared with us, Blockshot. You're right. He kind of had to be humbled a little bit in order to see that what he was doing was not right. Anyway, so let us continue on. Since I just needed to have that little interlude. Okay, let's return. All right. Very early the next morning, I heard him up and astir, wandering from one room to another. As soon as Mary came down, I heard the question, Is Miss Eyre here? Then, which room did you put her into? Was it dry? Is she up? Go and ask if she wants anything, and when she will come down. I came down as soon as I thought there was prospect of breakfast. Entering the room very softly, I had a view of him before he discovered my presence. It was mournful indeed to witness a subjugation of that vigorous spirit to a corporal infirmity. He sat in his chair, still, but not at rest, expectant evidently, the lines of now habitual sadness marking his strong features. His countenance remind one of a lamp quenched, waiting to be relit. And alas, it was not himself that could now kindle the luster of animated expression. He was dependent on another for that office. I had meant to be gay and careless, but the powerlessness of the strong man touched my heart to the quick. Still, I accosted him with what vivacity I could. Red Tempest says, Magpie needs to dish. Yes, I do. It is a bright sunny morning, sir, I said. The rain is over and gone, and there is a tender shining after it. You shall have a walk soon. I had wakened the glow. His features beamed. Oh, you are indeed there, my skylark. Come to me. You are not gone, not vanished. I heard one of your kind an hour ago, singing high over the wood, but its song made no music for me, any more than the rising sun had rays. All the melancholy on earth is concentrated in... No, sorry. All the melody. Not the melancholy. All the melody on earth is concentrated in my Jane's tongue to my ear. I am glad it is not naturally a silent one. All the sunshine I can feel is in her presence. The water stood in my eyes to hear this avowal of his dependence, just as if a royal eagle, chained to a perch, should be forced to entreat a sparrow to become its purveyor. But I would not be lachrymose. I dashed off the salt drops and busied myself with preparing breakfast. Most of the morning was spent in the open air. I led him out of the wet and wild wood into some cheerful fields. I described to him how brilliantly green they were, how the flowers and hedges looked refreshed, how sparklingly blue was the sky. I sought a seat for him in a hidden and lovely spot, a dry stump of a tree. Nor did I refuse to let him, when seated, place me on his knee. Why should I, when both he and I were happier than apart? Pilot lay beside us. Ah, Pilot! All was quiet. He broke out suddenly while clasping me in his arms. Cruel, cruel deserter! Oh, Jane, what did I feel when I discovered you had fled from Thornfield, and when I could nowhere find you, and after examining your apartment, ascertained that you had taken no money, nor anything which could serve as an equivalent. A pearl necklace I had given you lay untouched in its little casket. Your trunks were left corded and locked as if they had been prepared for the bridal tour. What could my darling do, I asked, left destitute and penniless? And what did she do? Let me hear it now. Thus urged, I began the narrative of my experience for the last year. I softened considerably what related to the 3 days of wandering and starvation, because to have told him all would have been to inflict unnecessary pain. The little I did say lacerated his faithful heart deeper than I wished. I should not have led him thus, he said, without any means of making my way. I should have told him my intention. I should have confided in him. He would never have forced me to be his mistress. Violent as he had seemed in his despair, he in truth loved me far too well and too tenderly to constitute himself my tyrant. He would have given me half his fortune without demanding so much as a kiss in return, rather than I should have flung myself friendless on the wide world. I had endured, he was certain, more than I had confessed to him. Well, whatever my sufferings had been, they were very short, I answered, and then I proceeded to tell him how I had been received at Moor House, how I had obtained the office of schoolmistress, etc. The accession of fortune, the discovery of my relations, followed in due order. Of course, St. John Rivers' name came in frequently in the progress of my tale. When I had done, that name was immediately taken up. This St. John, then, is your cousin? Yes. You have spoken of him often. Do you like him? He was a very good man, sir. I could not help liking him. A good man. Does that mean a respectable, well-conducted man of 50? Or what does it mean? St. John was only 29, sir. Jean encore. Still young, as the French say. Is he a person of low stature, phlegmatic, plain? A person whose goodness consists rather in his guiltlessness of vice, rather in his prowess in virtue? He is untiringly active. Great and exalted deeds are what he lives to perform. But his brain, that is probably rather soft. He means well, but you shrug his shoulders to hear him talk. He talks little, sir. What he does say is ever to the point. His brain is first-rate, I should think, not impressible, but vigorous. Is he an able man, then? Truly able. A thoroughly educated man? St. John is an accomplished and profound scholar. His manners, I think you said, are not to your taste, priggish and personic. I never mentioned his manners, but unless I had very bad taste, they must suit it. They are polished, calm, and gentlemanlike. His appearance, I forget what description you gave of his appearance, a sort of raw curate, half strangled with his white neckcloth, and stilted up on his thick-soled high-lows, eh? St. John dresses well. He is a handsome man, tall, fair, with blue eyes and a Grecian profile. Aside, damn him, to me. Did you like him, Jane? Yes, Mr. Rochester, I liked him, but you asked that before. Jane is tormenting him. Love it. I perceived, of course, the drift of my interlocutor. Jealousy had gotten hold of him. She stung him, but the sting was salutary. It gave him respite from the gnawing fang of melancholy. I would not, therefore, immediately charm the snake. Perhaps you would rather not sit any longer on my knee, Miss Eyre, was the next somewhat unexpected observation. Why not, Mr. Rochester? The picture you have just drawn is suggestive of a rather too overwhelming contrast. Your words have delineated very prettily a graceful Apollo. He is present to your imagination, tall, fair, blue-eyed, and with a Grecian profile. Your eyes dwell on a Vulcan, a real blacksmith, brown, broad-shouldered, and blind and lame into the bargain. I never thought of it before, but you certainly are rather like Vulcan, sir. Well, you can leave me, ma'am, but before you go, and he retained me by a firmer grasp than ever, you will be pleased just to answer a question or two. He paused. What questions, Mr. Rochester? Then followed this cross-examination. St. John made you mistress of Morton before he knew you were his cousin. Yes. You would often see him? He would often visit the school sometimes? Daily. He would approve of your plans, Jane. I know they would be clever, for you are a talented creature. He approved of them, yes. He would discover many things in you he would not have expected to find. Some of your accomplishments are not ordinary. I don't know about that. You had a little cottage near the school, you say. Did he ever come there to see you? Boy, did he. He came in without knocking, dude. Now and then, of an evening, once or twice, and he never knocked. A pause. What would he have thought if he knew what we know, that St. John came to her house in the night and entered, just let himself in as he pleases without knocking? I'm still really salty about that. Oh my goodness, Jane. Okay, sorry you guys for this little outburst. Okay. How long did you reside with him and his sisters after the cousinship was discovered? 5 months. Did Rivers spend much time with the ladies of his family? Yes, the back parlor was both his study and ours. He sat near the window, and we by the table. Did he study much? A good deal. What? Hindustani. And what did you do in the meantime? I learned German at first. Did he teach you? He did not understand German. Did he teach you nothing? A little Hindustani. Rivers taught you Hindustani. Yes, sir. And his sisters also? No. Only you. Only me. Did you ask to learn? No. He wished to teach you? Yes. A second pause. Why did he wish it? Of what use could Hindustani be to you? He intended me to go with him to India. Ah! Here I reached the root of the matter. He wanted you to marry him. He asked me to marry him? That is a fiction, an impudent invention to vex me. I beg your pardon. It is the literal truth. He asked me more than once, and was stiff about urging his point as ever you could be. Miss Eyre, I repeat it, you can leave me. How often am I to say the same thing? Why do you remain pertinaciously perched on my knee when I have given you notice to quit? Because I am comfortable there. No, Jane, you're not comfortable there, because your heart is not with me. It is with Discussion, this St. John. Oh, till this moment I thought my little Jane was all mine. I had to believe she loved me, even when she left me. That was an atom of sweet and much bitter. Long as we have been parted, hot tears I have wept over our separation. I never thought that while I was mourning her, she was loving another. But it is useless grieving, Jane. Leave me. Go and marry Rivers. Shake me off, sir. Push me away, for I'll not leave you of my own accord. Jane, I ever liked your tone of voice. It still renews hope. It sounds so truthful. When I hear it, it carries me back a year. I forget that you have formed a new tie. But I am not a fool. Go. Where must I go, sir? Your own way, with the husband you have chosen. Who's that? You know, this St. John Rivers. He is not my husband, nor ever will be. He does not love me. I do not love him. He loves as he can love, and that is not as you love. A beautiful young lady called Rosamond. He wanted to marry me because he thought I should make a suitable missionary's wife, which she would not have done. He is good and great, but severe, and for me cold as an iceberg. He is not like you, sir. I am not happy at his side, nor near him, nor with him. He has no indulgence for me, no fondness. He sees nothing attractive in me, not even youth, only a few useful mental points. Then I must leave you, sir, to go to him? I shuddered involuntarily and clung instinctively closer to my blind but beloved master. He smiled. What, Jane? Is this true? Is such really the state of matters between you and Rivers? Absolutely, sir. Oh, you do not need to be jealous. I wanted to tease you a little to make you less sad. I thought anger would be better than grief. But if you wish me to love you, could you but see how much I do love you? You would be so proud and content. All my heart is yours, sir. It belongs to you, and with you I would remain were fate to exile the rest of me from your presence forever. Again, as he kissed me, painful thoughts darkened his aspect. My seared vision, my crippled strength, he murmured regretfully. I caressed in order to soothe him. I knew of what he was thinking, and wanted to speak for him, but dared not. As he turned aside his face a minute, I saw a tear slide from under the sealed eyelid, and trickle down the manly cheek. My heart swelled. I am no better than the old lightning-struck chestnut tree in Thornfield orchard, he remarked erelong. And what right would that ruin have to bid a budding woodbine cover its decay with freshness? You are no ruin, sir, no lightning-struck tree. You are green and vigorous. Plants will grow about your roots, whether you ask them or not, because they take delight in your bountiful shadow. And as they grow, they will lean towards you and wind around you, because your strength offers them so safe a prop. Again he smiled. I gave him comfort. You speak of friends, Jane? He asked. Yes, of friends, I answered rather hesitantly, for I knew I meant more than friends, but I could not tell what other word to employ. He helped me. Ah, Jane, but I want a wife. Do you, sir? Yes. Is it news to you? Of course. You said nothing about it before. Is it unwelcome news? That depends on the circumstances, sir. On your choice. Which you shall make for me, Jane. I will abide by your decision. Choose then, sir, her who loves you best. I will at least choose her I love best. Jane, will you marry me? Yes, sir. A poor blind man, whom you will have to lead about by the hand. Yes, sir. A crippled man, 20 years older than you, whom you will have to wait on. Yes, sir. Truly, Jane. Most truly, sir. Oh, my darling, God bless and reward you. Mr. Rochester, if I ever did a good deed in my life, if I ever thought a good thought, if I ever prayed a sincere and blameless prayer, if ever I wished a righteous wish, I am rewarded now. To be your wife is for me to be as happy as I can be on earth. Because you delight in sacrifice. Sacrifice? What do I sacrifice? Famine for food? Expectation for content? To be privileged to put my arms around what I value? To press my lips to what I love? To repose on what I trust? Is that to make a sacrifice? If so, then certainly I delight in sacrifice. And to bear with my infirmities, Jane, to overlook my deficiencies, which are none, sir, to me. I love you better now, when I can really be useful to you, than I did in your state of proud independence, when you disdain every part but that of the giver and protector. Hitherto, I have hated to be helped, to be led. Henceforth, I feel I shall hate it no more. I did not like to put my hand into a hireling's, but it is pleasant to feel it encircled by Jane's little fingers. I preferred utter loneliness to the constant attendance of servants, but Jane's soft ministry will be a perpetual joy. Jane suits me. Do I suit her? To the finest fibre of my nature, sir. The case being so, we have nothing in the world to wait for. We must be married instantly. Well, time for a special license, I suppose. He looked and spoke with eagerness. His old impetuosity was rising. We must become one flesh without any delay, Jane. Oh boy, he's not beating about the bush, is he? There is but the license to get. Then we marry. Mr. Rochester, I have just discovered the sun is far declined from its meridian, and Pilot has actually gone home to his dinner. Let me look at your watch. Fasten it to your girdle, Janet, and keep it henceforward. I have no use for it. It is nearly 4 o'clock in the afternoon, sir. Don't you feel hungry? The 3rd day from this must be our wedding, Jane. Never mind fine clothes and jewels now. All that is not worth a fillip. The sun has dried up all the raindrops, sir. The breeze is still. It is quite hot. Do you know, Jane, I have your little pearl necklace at this moment, fastened round my bronze scrag under my cravat. I have worn it since the day I lost my only treasure, as a memento of her. We will go home through the wood. That would be the shadiest way. He's like being sentimental and all about the marriage. And she's like, yeah, the weather looks nice. Let's go home. Trying to balance out the sentimentalism with her. Yeah, I get it. Charlotte Bronte's trying not to get too saccharine, too sappy on us, I guess. He pursued his thoughts. He pursued his own thoughts without heeding me. Jane, you think me, I dare say, an irreligious dog, but my heart swells with gratitude to the beneficent God of this earth just now. He sees, not as man sees, but far clearer, judges not as man judges, but far more wisely. I did wrong. I would have sullied my innocent flower, breathed guilt on its purity. The omnipotent snatched it from me. I, in my stiff-necked rebellion, almost cursed the dispensation. Instead of bending to the decree, I defied it. Divine justice pursued its course. Disasters came thick on me. I was forced to pass through the valley of shadow of death. His chastisements are mighty, and one smote me, which has humbled me forever. You know, I was proud of my strength. But what is that now when I must give it over to foreign guidance, as a child does its weakness? Of late, Jane, only of late, I began to see and acknowledge the hand of God in my doom. I began to experience remorse, repentance, the wish for reconcilement to my Maker. I began sometimes to pray. Very brief prayers they were, but very sincere. Some days since, I can number them 4, it was last Monday night, a singular mood overcame me, one which grief replaced frenzy, sorrow, sullenness. I had long had the impression that since I could nowhere find you, you must be dead. Late that night, perhaps it might have been between 11 and 12 o'clock, ere I retired to my dreary rest, I supplicated God that, if it seemed good to him, I might soon be taken from this life and admitted to that world to come, where there was still hope of rejoining Jane. I was in my own room, and sitting by the window, which was open. It soothed me to feel the balmy night air, though I could see no stars, only a vague luminous haze, which was the presence of the moon. I longed for thee, Janet. Oh, I longed for thee both with soul and flesh. I asked for God at once, in anguish and humility, if I had not been long enough desolate, afflicted, and tormented, and might not soon taste bliss and peace once more. That I merited all I endured, I acknowledged. That I could scarcely endure no more, I pleaded. And the Alpha and Omega of my heart's wishes broke involuntarily from my lips in the words, Jane, Jane, Jane. Did you speak these words aloud? I did, Jane. If any listener had heard me, he would have thought me mad. I pronounced them with such frantic energy. And it was last Monday night? Somewhere near midnight? Yes, but the time is of no consequence. What followed is a strange point. You will think me superstitious. Some superstition I have in my blood, and always have had. Nevertheless, this is true. True at least it is that I heard what I now relate. As I exclaimed, Jane, 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 a voice, and I cannot tell where the voice came, but I know whose voice it was, replied, I am coming, wait for me. And a moment later went whispering on the wind the words, Where are you? I'll tell you if I can. The idea, the picture these words open to my mind. Yet it is difficult to express what I want to express. Ferndean is buried, as you see, in a heavy wood, where sound falls dull and dies unreverberating. Where are you? Seems spoken amongst mountains. For I heard a hill-sent echo repeat the words. Cooler and fresher at the moment, the gale seemed to visit my brow. I could have deemed that in some wild lone scene, I and Jane were meeting. In spirit, I believe, we must have met. You, no doubt, were at that hour in unconscious sleep, Jane. Perhaps your soul wandered from its cell to comfort mine, for those were your accents, as certain as I live they were yours. Reader, it was on Monday night, near midnight, that I too had received a mysterious summons. Those were the very words by which I replied to it. I listened to Mr. Rochester's narrative, but made no disclosure in return. The coincidence struck me as too awful and inexplicable to be communicated or discussed. If I told anything, my tale would be such as must necessarily make a profound impression on the mind of my hearer, and that mind, yet from its sufferings too prone to gloom, needed not the deeper shade of the supernatural. I kept these things then, and pondered them in my heart. You cannot now wonder, continued my master, that when you rose upon me so unexpectedly last night, I had difficulty in believing you any other than a mere voice and vision, something that would melt to silence and annihilation, as the midnight whisper and mountain echo had melted before. Now I thank God. I know it to be otherwise. Yes, I thank God. He put me off his knee, rose, and reverently lifting his hat from his brow and bending his sightless eyes to the earth, he stood in mute devotion. Only the last words of the worship were audible. I thank my Maker that in the midst of judgment he has remembered mercy. I humbly entreat my Redeemer to give me strength to lead henceforth a purer life than I have done hitherto. Then he stretched his hand out to be led. I took that dear hand, held it a moment to my lips, then let it pass round my shoulder. Being so much lower of stature than he, I served both for his prop and guide. We entered the wood and wended homeward. Ooh, okay. What did you guys think of that chapter? So we finally get Rochester's side of the story. From the moment he learned of Jane leaving him to the moment he reacted, he and Jane reunited. And wow, it was quite a year for him. We already know of the tragedy that took place in Thornfield, but that is not really what really altered him. What the change? Yeah, he does say that he has been he underwent many trials, but it wasn't really the loss of Thornfield and the fire and him being, it was his own spiritual journey that he had to contend with his past. And during this whole year, he went through basically the 5 stages of grief. There was anger. Definitely he was angry at God, and he was in a way rebellious and just bitter about what his life had come to after Jane left him, and he found himself deserted and alone and abandoned by her. And so he says, in his retelling, he says that he had to go through being blinded, being maimed, being left alone, for him to realize that he had done wrong and to be repentant and to actually agree at last and admit that he had been wrong, and to admit that the judgment of God had come upon him and that it had been just. But he does also recognize that God had been merciful to him in spite of the judgment that he had to live with and the consequences of his actions. It's still moving how he came to. The biggest character growth for him is that he went from being somebody who was sinful and who he wanted to turn a new leaf over. Remember, you guys? He told Jane, I want to turn a new leaf over, but how I'm going to do that is by attaching myself to somebody who's virtuous and clean. Jane told him, you know what? If you want to turn a new leaf, you shouldn't look to another human to do that. You have to look towards God. But he was like, nah, I don't need that stuff. But now he has done his own character growth arc, and we see that finally that when the two of them finally are okay, not just with each other, but Rochester is okay with God and with himself. He's turning a new leaf. And in a Victorian sense, you guys know this was written during the Victorian era. So these themes of repentance and just all of these things about virtue, and they were very important. So it was a must that Rochester come to this conclusion on his own about just being right with God. And honestly, for somebody who's so convicted of her beliefs and who who braved to be out in the world alone rather than to fall to temptation. Jane doesn't need somebody who has no principles. Jane needs somebody who also shares the same values as she. So I'm glad to see that Rochester he had to do his own thing and find peace with God, and I'm happy that it happened for her sake. Now, as to the choice, we'll talk about like Jane, but we see that she made it abundantly clear to us that she wants nobody else but Rochester, even as he is blind, and that's who she wants, and the two are still quite made for each other in a way. So yeah, let's see. Let me read your comments. Yes, I did enjoy her tormenting him, Red Tempest. Fist would be flying if he knew. Yes. So, fortunately, though, I don't think he will ever get to the point of punching St. John if he knew how he treated Jane. I mean, Jane did tell a little bit, but if he had known all those horrible things that St. John tried to manipulate her, he would have been so angry. He's like, how dare you treat my Jane, my precious treasure, like that and not value her as you should. Like, get lost, I will punch you. I will have my horse kick you in the head, or my dog out and bite you. I don't know. Yeah, so Blockstrut says, cold as an iceberg. Sorry, Jane, an iceberg is warm compared to St. John. Oh, Blockstrut disagrees. So St. John then is basically 0 degrees Kelvin, maybe. What's it called? Ultimate. I forget what it's called. I forget my science. He is beyond ice. He's colder than that. So Michelle, hello Michelle, says best reunion in all of English literature. I agree, you guys. Okay, you guys, I'm going to do a watch party of this over on the Discord server, and I am more than willing to open it up to people who are here and are not members. I'm thinking of doing like a temporary thing where I just open it up so we can watch Jane Eyre, because I love this series. I probably will watch 2006 version or the 2011 version, because the 1983 is also one of my favorites, but unfortunately it is 10 episodes long, you guys. So that's like almost, I don't know how many hours, like it's a very long one. So I don't know. I'm thinking of doing that. I have to experiment first with Discord settings. But yeah. It's definitely so heartwarming, and I want to like compare, like I should probably do a video just to compare like the adaptations of like the proposal scenes, the reunion scenes, the breakup scenes, and when they first met. Yes, I know these are important parts, you guys. So what do you guys think? Should I just do a video or a watch party? Maybe I should just do a video. I'm still unmonetized, so if they tell me that this cannot be, I'm like, whatever, this channel is unmonetized, you guys. We are 100 and how many people strong here, so it doesn't really matter right now whether I have a copyright infringement, because I'm not monetized. So I don't know, what do you guys think? I'll go with whatever you guys say. All right, so let's see. But yes, Michelle, I agree. Best reunion in all of English literature. Agreed. Crusher says, nice. Rochester had begun to pray. Also, I have returned. Glad to see you, Crusher. And yes, Rochester is definitely making a change in his life, and it was necessary. Crusher also says, hey, Magpie, did you see that AI image I posted yet? I have not. I should go and check it out. Did you put it in literature? In library? I don't see anything in library. Oh, I see. AI. Here we go. Let me show it to the people. Here we go. We have Crusher generated some images of Rochester. I think Rochester looks very... let's see. Oh, he has a wooden hand. Wow, you included a wooden hand. We have Good Boy Pilot, of course. I think the one at the bottom might be more true to the Rochester in the story, because he looks like he's kind of beat up a little. And then this guy here, he looks young. He looks like he's St. John's age. But yeah, good job on the generating. I have no idea what you prompted, but that's a good style. A dog, it's Pilot. So let me just continue reading. So thank you for sharing those, Crusher. Isn't it kind of spooky how all the inexplicable things that happened in the story happened when the moon was out? Ooh. This book is basically a spiritual autobiography. So, like I said before, this book is a coming-of-age story, but blended with Gothic elements. So in Gothic novels, you had elements of supernatural or just mysteries, hidden things, spooky things. So we got plenty of that. We got a mad woman in the attic. That's pretty Gothic. We got dreams, like prophetic dreams. We had, yes, voices in the night while the moon was out. Yes, indeed, we had that. We had all kinds of coincidences going on. We had, oh my goodness, so much going on. So yeah, this book does have a little bit of like suspension of disbelief, but again, it's fiction, and I've never heard anybody, like any commentators or any literary critics, really take issue with these things, because it sort of fits still within the narrative. It makes sense in this story, that you would have some elements of just these creepy little elements and supernatural elements. But yeah, you have a big, huge portion of this, though. Again, this was written in the Victorian era by a daughter of a parson, a clergyman's daughter. So Charlotte Brontë was a clergyman's daughter, so her works did reflect these values. So a lot of people, when they read this book, they took issue with Jane Eyre being so liberal. Yes, Jane Eyre was considered to be a very liberal, like too much so, too independent, too passionate, definitely not maidenly enough so as to, like, she did touch upon, and they hint upon, love in all its forms, of, the marital embrace, those things. And that was scandalous. That was scandalous for somebody to write this, especially if they had known that a woman wrote this book. They would have been very, very scandalous. So yeah, but this book, for the most part, though, it centers on the spiritual lives, or the spiritual facet of one's character as being integral to one's growth. So Jane couldn't really have done her hero's journey and grown and have a full happy life at the end had she not also grown spiritually, and Rochester too, had they not also aligned themselves to their creator and their maker. And in that way, they were able to fit not just in his plan, but also within society. Remember, the story started with Jane being an outcast. As an orphan, she didn't really fit anywhere. She was dependent on people, and cast out into Lowood. She had nowhere to go. Cast out, like going out into Thornfield. She really had nowhere else to go except Thornfield. So in order for her to finally be at one with her society and be like, she had to fit in. Everybody has to fit into society and its norms, which did place a very important role on religion and religious values. Anyway, I feel like I'm just blabbering on. Continuing on with the comments. By the way, Crusher, good point about the moon. I see it now. Also recommended Jane Eyre. Yes, Michelle Howard recommended Jane Eyre 1983 version. It's on YouTube. Yes, go check it out on YouTube. And like I said, Jane reuniting with Edward is the written in all English literature. Read it more than 100 times. Still cry. Yeah. So you guys do go check out the 1983 version. It is superb. It is incredibly good. Probably the Jane. The Jane is a little. The only thing that kind of gets me out is that Jane looks a little bit older than she should, but that's just a very minor gripe. I think the Susanna, no, what's her name? Clark. I think her last name was Clark. Hold on. Jane Eyre, 1983. No, Zela Clark, not Susanna, Zela Clark. Yeah, so they did a really good job. Rochester is one of my favorite Rochesters. It's really good, you guys. Go check it out. And it's free in YouTube. Good stuff. However, the one that my heart likes the most, just because their chemistry is so on point. Rochester and Jane's chemistry is so on point. Very, very good. You have that witty banter, and I don't know. I'm a big fan of Toby Smith. So I like the 2006 version, but it's not perfect. The 2006 version, you guys, does it's an 8 out of 10, simply because the most fundamental part for me in this book is Jane's stalwart, just her being so decided to not fall for, like, not become Rochester's wife, and she decided that she would not, cross certain lines and certain boundaries. And I feel like in the 2006 version, they kind of had her like, I'm like, yo, I don't think Jane would have done this after she knew that Rochester was already married. Like, I don't know, man. This is too passionate for me. I don't know. You guys be the judges. Check out the 2006 version. Other than that, though, it's incredible. Let's see what else. Dun, 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 dun. When are we gonna do a Jane Eyre watch party? LOL. Let's do it this week. Red Tempest, are you down for this week? Might as well, since I'm still thinking about what I'm gonna do for the read along, and since we just finished it, yeah, we should do it this week. How's Wednesday look for you guys? At least I'm talking to the Ko-fi members. I'm still not sure if I'll be able to open it up to regular non-Ko-fi members. I'm gonna see if I can do something with the Discord. I think I can, but I have to experiment. Anyway, probably Wednesday mid-afternoon, maybe? We'll see. Be on the lookout for that in the events page. Yes, but we will do it. Let's see, what else? Absolute zero. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, that's absolute zero. 0 degrees Kelvin. So that's that's basically St. John. He's absolute zero. Blockshot says 130 subs at this point. I know I have 130 subs. I'm saying we still have how many? How many to go? 870 subscribers to go before I can monetize. That's going to be quite a ways away. But meanwhile, we'll just have fun here by ourselves. You guys are the original crew, and you guys deserve an award and lots of hearts. Here, have a whole bunch of hearts for me. Let's see. Modern adaptation. Michelle also says modern adaptations love to hype the sexual relationship between them. Yes, that is what I take issue in the 2006 version. The 2011 version was also very good. The atmosphere was good. It was very restrained. And so if you like that, it's very good. Again, check it out. It's also good though. And I love the soundtrack. It's one of my favorites. Oh, Crusher has to go. See you later, Crusher. Thank you for joining us. But I agree, Michelle. rather illuminate the physical, whether it happened or not. Yeah, I'm sure. And yes, Jane's view on children. Exactly. So, this her statements here and there. She proposed in different. She proposed to. Let's see. The first time she was engaged to Rochester, she was the one that proposed to him. Yes, she did. And she owned up to it. Unheard of in this time and age. The second time, when there was talk about marriage, she's the one that proposed to St. John that she would go with him, but not as his wife, that she would go with him as an unwedded young woman. Honestly, shocking. To us, it's be like, cool, what's the issue? They don't have anything. No. You guys don't understand. In the Victorian era, this was unheard of. A young girl would not just say to some guy like, I'll go with you, unmarried, unaccompanied by anybody else, just you and me. We'll be together, like in India, by ourselves, and it'll be okay because I don't love you and you don't love me. Again, her second proposal. This was shot down, however, because this was unladylike. The third proposal was that she would stay with him all the days of her life. If he said no, then she would still make a little house close to his because she now has money and gosh darn it, she wants to be with him. So in all these cases, Jane is the one proposing, you guys. It is radical. Jane Eyre not maiden enough, says Crusher. Jane is protecting her chastity throughout the entire story. They cray. Exactly. Again, media literacy is something that people often lack when they read a work of fiction. In this case, a lot of people that criticize Jane Eyre, they just probably need a little bit more media literacy to understand that the subtext and the symbolisms and what the author was actually trying to say here. Michelle Howard says, half the adaptations have Jane and Rochester hitting second base. LOL. I know. They do kiss. They do kiss in the book, and I think she even kissed him in the book after she knew that that he had a wife. Did she kiss? I think but it was just like a peck. A look like a peck, and I don't know if it was in the cheek. I forget. But that was about it. And she did the most she ever did while she knew he was married was admit to him that she still loved him and that she would always love him, which was already sinful enough, I guess. Michelle also says, love the Toby version, very sexy. Yes, very sexy. I don't know about that, but Rochester in that one made me feel things, you guys. I will not disclose what, but I just didn't like the passionate scenes. That was just not. I didn't like that. Just because I felt it was not in character with what Jane would have let him do. So in that one, he discloses his story while they're in her bedroom alone, and they're fully clothed, but they're still kind of like in bed. So I'm like, no, that's not how it goes. And they're not making it. Well, they kind of do. Just check it out for yourselves. You guys be the judge. Let's see. Wednesday might work. Okay, says Red Tempest. All right, I'll schedule something and be on the lookout for that. Jane Howard also says, Jane is an amazing mix of progressive but God-fearing, very unique indeed. So a lot of people have commented on how her character is one of the most interesting female figures in literature. And I agree, you guys, because this book could have been just very preachy, a very priggish kind of story, and it wasn't, because she admitted that yes, she had feelings, she had emotions, she was passionate, in every sense, but ultimately kind of like an example of what we all are gonna encounter temptations. And a lot of times people believe that feelings and emotions, having those feelings, having those emotions is license to act as you wish. But that's not true. We are all meant to struggle sometimes, but we are supposed to do what's right, just as she did what's right. So I thoroughly admired Jane as a heroine back as when I was middle schooler or high schooler, young high schooler, and I still do even now. It was a very impactful book in my life, and if I were to have a daughter, I don't think that will happen at this this late in the game, but if I were to have children one day, I would definitely have my daughters and maybe my sons, my sons too, read this book. Why not? Because it's, of course, not when they're babies. You have to choose what age they would read this book. But yeah, it's a good book, and I'm glad that I was able to share it with you guys. There's a lot of stuff that I want to talk about the literary analysis and stuff, but I'm saving it to maybe a chit chat. Yes, we are going to do a chit chat for Jane Eyre, and Lord help me, I don't know how we're going to do it and how long it's going to take and when it's going to happen. We are scheduled to record the Blue Castle chit chat on my Discord server on July 15th. So if you want to join us for that, first off, become a member on my Ko-fi. Pretty straightforward process. Become a member, support your magpie. And then I will again edit the thing, and I will post the chit chat here for everybody to enjoy. It will be just delving into the author and our favorite chapters and all of those things. And then once we do that, I will schedule a Jane Eyre chit chat where I will, pull all the stops and talk about the symbolism of this and the character development of that. And yes, there will be lots of St. John hate going on. Do look forward to that. Let's see. Michelle says, I will give St. John props for wanting to educate the poorest children. Yes, that is very noble. I think, you guys, that educating the poor is something that any decent human person should want to do. And if it's in your means and it is part of your job description to better your community where you're at, that's definitely one of the things you should do. Yes. So good on him. But I don't think it's anything out of the ordinary, honestly. it's the bar is very low. If that is what we call goodness. I mean, people who are against educating people are true villains in my book, honestly. So anyway, but let us get back to this Jane Eyre. You guys, I had a lot of fun. I hope you also enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts, impressions about this book, do drop them in the comments. Remember, during chit chats, I like to pull up my favorite comments from these read-alongs and these videos. So if you want your comments featured or read out loud during the chit chat, do share your thoughts, your experiences. Probably, like I said before, I read this book through a different lens than some of you guys did. So if you have anything that I missed or anything that you got out of it that I didn't point out, do share it with me. I really do look forward to talking and reading about Jane Eyre soon. So, okay, let's see. Dread Tempest says, I'm reading a light novel about a farmer's son with past memories becoming a bookworm. Ooh, that's a good book. Well, that sounds like a good book. Any bookworm is welcome in my book. Do share the name of that book so people can know. And yeah, so you guys, I'm going to stop here. I will return, we'll have a break on Wednesday because I'm going to do a watch party on my Discord server for Jane Eyre. Be on the lookout though on the X. No, not on X. I'm gonna put the link here on the community. Okay, if I manage to make an invite that will let it so that people can do temporarily access the stream channel. I will post it on this channel, like on my community notes, on my community posts. I won't post it on my X. It's just for you guys, because I don't want people to just randos to jump in. I don't think people would jump in, but just to be safe, this is just for us. Anyway, be on the lookout for that. I'm 75% sure it will be possible for me to open up the server for the watch party. All right, you guys, I am off because I haven't eaten breakfast, you guys. I haven't eaten breakfast and I'm starving. Oh, wait, we didn't finish the book. Oh my gosh, I just realized that we haven't finished the book. Okay, you guys, let's do it. I almost ended the stream without finishing the book. We still have one more chapter. It is the conclusion. Let's do this, okay? All right, final chapter, you guys. All right. Don't go, Michelle. We're still not done. Don't go, Red Tempest. We're still not done. Conclusion. Reader, I married him. A quiet wedding we had. He and I, the parson and clerk, were alone present. When we got back from the church, I went into the kitchen of the manor house where Mary was cooking the dinner and John cleaning the knives, and I said, Mary, I have been married to Mr. Rochester this morning. The housekeeper and her husband were both of that decent phlegmatic order of people to whom one may at any time safely communicate a remarkable piece of news without incurring the danger of having one's ears pierced by some shrill ejaculation and subsequently stunned by a torrent of wordy wonderment. Mary did look up, and she did stare at me. The ladle with which she was basting a pair of chickens roasting at the fire did for some 3 minutes hang suspended in air. And for the same space of time, John's knives also had rest from the polishing process. But Mary, bending again over the roast, said only, Have you, miss? Well, for sure. A short time after, she pursued, I see'd you'd go out with the master, but I didn't know you were gone to church to be wed. And she basted away. John, when I turned to him, was grinning from ear to ear. Ah! I told Mary how it would be, he said. I knew that Mr. Edward. John was an old servant, and had known his master when he was the cadet of the house, therefore he often gave him his Christian name. I knew what Mr. Edward would do, and I was certain he would not wait long either, and he's done right, for aught I know. I wish you joy, miss. And he politely pulled his forelock. Thank you, John. Mr. Rochester told me to give you and Mary this. I put into his hand a £5 note. Without waiting to hear more, I left the kitchen. And passing the door of that sanctum some time after, I caught the words, She'll happen to do better for him than all those other grand ladies. And again, if she been one of the handsomest, she's non-foul and very good-natured, and in his eyes she's fair beautiful. Anybody may see that. I wrote to Moor House and to Cambridge immediately to say what I had done, fully explaining also why I had thus acted. Diana and Mary approved the step unreservedly. Diana announced that she would just give me time to get over the honeymoon, and then she would come and see me. She had better not wait till then, Jane, said Mr. Rochester, when I read the letter to him. If she does, she will be too late, for our honeymoon will shine our life long. Its beams will only fade over your grave or mine. How St. John received the news, I know not. He never answered the letter in which I communicated. Yet 6 months after he wrote to me, without, however, mentioning Mr. Rochester's name or alluding to my marriage. His letter was then calm, and though very serious, kind. He has maintained a regular, though not frequent, correspondence ever since. He hopes I am happy, and trusts I am not one of those who live without God in the world, and only mind earthly things. You have not quite forgotten little Adele, have you, reader? I had not. I soon asked and obtained leave of Mr. Rochester to go and see her at the school where he had placed her. Her frantic joy at beholding me again moved me very much. She looked pale and thin. She said she was not happy. I found the rules of the establishment were too strict, its course of study too severe for a child of her age. I took her home with me. I meant to become her governess once more, but I soon found this impracticable. My time and cares were now required by another. My husband needed them all. So I sought out a school conducted on a more indulgent system, and near enough to permit of my visiting her often, and bringing her home sometimes. I took care she should never want for anything that would contribute to her comfort. She soon settled in her new abode, became very happy there, and made fair progress in her studies. As she grew up, a sound English education corrected in a great measure her French defects, and when she left school I found in her a pleasing and obliging companion, docile, good-tempered, and well-principled. By her grateful attention to me and mine, she has long since well repaid any little kindness I ever had in my power to offer her. My tale draws to its close. One word respecting my experience of married life, and one brief glance at the fortunes of those whose names have most frequently recurred in this narrative as I have done. I have now been married 10 years. I know what it is like to live entirely for and with what I love best on earth. I hold myself supremely blessed, blessed beyond what language can express, because I am my husband's life, as fully as he is mine. No woman was ever nearer to her mate than I now am, ever more absolutely born of his blood. Ever more absolutely bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. I know no weariness of my husband's society. He knows none of mine, any more than we each do of the pulsation of the heart that beats in our separate bosoms. Consequently, we are ever together. To be together is for us to be at once as free as in solitude, as gay as in company. We talk, I believe, all day long. To talk to each other is but a more animated and an audible thinking. All my confidence is bestowed on him. All his confidence is devoted to me. We are precisely suited in character. Perfect concord is the result. Mr. Rochester continued blind the first 2 years of our union. Perhaps it was that circumstance that drew us so very near, that knit us so very close, for I was then his vision, as I am still his right hand. Literally, I was, what he often called me, the apple of his eye. He saw nature, he saw books through me, and never did I weary of gazing for his behalf, and of putting into words the effect of field, tree, town, river, cloud, sunbeam, of the landscape before us, of the weather around us, and impressing by sound on his ear what light could no longer stamp on his eye. Never did I weary of reading to him. Never did I weary of conducting him where he wished to go, of doing for him what he wished to be done. And there was pleasure in my services, most full, most exquisite, even though sad, because he claimed these services without painful shame or damping humiliation. He loved me so truly that he had no reluctance in profiting by my attendance. He felt I loved him so fondly that to yield that attendance was to indulge my sweetest wishes. One morning at the end of 2 years, as I was writing a letter to his dictation, he came and bent over me and said, "Jane, have you a glittering ornament around your neck?" I had a gold watch chain. I answered, "Yes." "And have you a pale blue dress on?" I had. He informed me then that for some time he had fancied the obscurity clouding one eye was becoming less dense, and that now he was sure of it. He and I went up to London. He had the advice of an eminent oculist, and he eventually recovered the sight of that one eye. He cannot now see very distinctly, he cannot read or write much, but he can find his way without being led by the hand. The sky is no longer a blank to him, the earth no longer a void. When his firstborn was put into his arms, he could see that the boy had inherited his own eyes, as they once were, large, brilliant, and black. On that occasion, he again, with a full heart, acknowledged that God had tempered judgment with mercy. My Edward and I, then, are happy, and the more so, because those we must love are happy likewise. Diana and Mary Rivers are both married. Alternately, once every year, they come to see us, and we go to see them. Diana's husband is a captain in the Navy, a gallant officer and a good man. Diana's is a clergyman, a college friend of her brother's, and, from his attainments and principles, worthy of the connection. Both Captain Fitzjames and Mr. Wharton love their wives, and are loved by them. As to St. John Rivers, he left England. He went to India. He entered on the path he had marked for himself. He pursues it still. A more resolute, indefatigable pioneer never wrought amidst rocks and dangers. Firm, faithful, and devoted, full of energy and zeal and truth, he labors for his race. He clears their painful way to improvement. He hews down like a giant the prejudices of creed and caste that encumber it. He may be stern, he may be exacting, he may be ambitious yet, but his is the sternness of the warrior Greatheart, who guards his pilgrim convoy from the onslaught of Apollyon. His is the exaction of the apostle, who speaks but for Christ when he says, "Whomsoever will come after me, let him deny himself, and take up his cross and follow me." His is the ambition of the high master spirit, which aims to fill a place in the first rank of those who are redeemed from the earth, who stand without fault before the throne of God, who share the last mighty victories of the Lamb, who are called and chosen and faithful. St. John is unmarried. He will never marry now. Himself has hitherto sufficed to the toil, and the toil draws near its close. The glorious sun hastens to its setting. The last letter I received from him drew from my eyes human tears, and yet filled my heart with divine joy. He anticipated his true reward, his incorruptible crown. I know that a stranger's hand will write to me next to say that the good and faithful servant has been called at length into the joy of his Lord. And why weep for this? No fear of death will darken St. John's last hour. His mind will be unclouded, his heart will be undaunted, his hope will be sure, his faith steadfast. His own words are a pledge of this. My master, he says, has forewarned me. Daily he announces more distinctly, surely I come quickly, and hourly I more eagerly respond. Amen. Even so, come, Lord Jesus. End of chapter, end of Jane Eyre. Thank you so much, you guys, for reading with me. We finally got to that epilogue. I almost forgot it, but no, I could not forget it, you guys. It was like 25 sessions. That's, I don't know, more than 25 hours, you guys, of ebook. But I hope you enjoyed it. I'm glad you stuck with it. But yeah, let's see what you guys have to say about the final chapter. So, okay, so Red Tempest says, I just started it this morning, so I'll give it an update later. What did you just start? Was it the Blue Castle or Jane Eyre or what? What did you just start it? Oh, no, never mind. Sorry, it's the book you told me about. Yes. All right. No, that was not the end of Red Tempest. That's the epilogue. So, okay. Yeah. So I'm glad that Diana and Mary both approved of her. You know, they definitely know Jane. They know she's not a frivolous person who will, you know, go and marry somebody that's not fit for her. They know that she has sound judgment. They respect her judgment, so they respect her choice and they stand by her. Good for them. St. John, of course, didn't mention anything, didn't give her the satisfaction of railing, and actually, yeah, he didn't say anything. He didn't give us the satisfaction of getting angry and upset at the fact that that she had gotten married when he wasn't looking. You guys can imagine how he responded. Again, interesting that we got to see Adele. They say, again, this is written by a French person, and again, English person. So in their view of things, English people are the most exalted human beings ever, and anybody outside of England is a savage, basically. Even the people in the continent, like France, they considered them as beneath, inferior. The ways were too lascivious, too loose, not prim and proper enough for them. So that's why she says her French defects, basically her being, a creative. No, just her being her Celine Veron's daughter, having learned from her mother how to please and how to charm. That was seen as something she needed to get taken out of her. I think it's a shame, but okay. Ooh, Michelle says, I call my husband my Mr. Rochester. I know, cheesy, LOL. That's, you do you. And you know what? If you have that kind of relationship where you are equally, okay, so you guys, hold on, let me just gather my thoughts. Basically, in this story, it ends with them being together. Like, despite everything that happened, they are soulmates. They are perfectly suited for one another. There's nothing, like, he confides in her, she confides in him. They don't get tired of each other, which is saying something, because most couples I know, and I need some alone time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I love you, but I need some. I'm like that too, okay, you guys? I need some alone time. But not them. They suit each other in that respect. They're like happy to be with each other. Again, theirs was a very devoted, very pure love in the end. So I don't, it's not cheesy. If your love is anything like that, devoted, pure, good for you. I'm if anything, I should be jealous that I don't have like somebody I could call my Rochester of my own. I'm just saying, just treasure your love as the what's it called? The Princess Bride clergyman. So treasure your love. Sorry, I'm being stupid. Anyway, that's sweet. It's not cheesy. It's sweet, Michelle. Just check for fun. £5 from that time would roughly be $638. £8 today. Yeah, so that's quite a bit of money. Let's see. Yes, that was a true ending, Red Tempest. Each session was over 1 hour. Yes, it was a little over 1 hour. Sometimes it was a little under, but this session was 2 hours long. So it's give around 25 hours each. If you look up this audiobook in Audible or whatever, the shortest one, or the average time is 22 to 24 hours worth of audiobook. And this is why I did not record this one. I do not plan on re-editing this one. This was just straight up just chatting with you guys. The Blue Castle was 11 hours long. I am editing that one little by little, so I'll release that one eventually. You guys do remember I did post 3 chapters of the Blue Castle, the edited version, so you guys can see my little spin on what I'm doing, the treatment I'm giving the Blue Castle. Hope you enjoy it. Let me know if don't let me know what you think, because then I will get discouraged, because if you don't like it, then I'll be like sad. So don't let me know what you think if you're gonna tell me that it sucks. All right. Yes, so the fact that Rochester was able to see again, it's one of those happy endings. He was able to see, and they had a baby too, which is so nice. And again, the baby takes after Rochester, has the same brilliant black eyes. Very sweet. Blockshot says, we had about 34 hours of live stream read-alongs for Jane Eyre. 34 hours? 34 hours? Really? I thought it was maybe like 25. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh wow. I don't think I've done such a... Yeah, this is the very first time I do such a... Wow. I've only done one other book and it was 13 sessions. This was twice as long. Almost twice as long. 25 sessions. So I'm surprised and amazed. Wow. Thank you guys for sitting with me for so many hours. Now, Michelle also says, Adele is a little vain. Yes, it's learned behavior. Yeah, I just wish that she hadn't said like, oh, she got her French taken. No, that was not French. That was Celine Varens all the way. But, you know, it's an English author and writing to an English audience. So, of course, they're going to say something like that. And yes, I call him that because we don't tire of each other. 24 years and we can make each other. Oh, that's so sweet. Ah, I'm so happy for you, Michelle. Congratulations. Wow, 24 years. Wow. That's so sweet. Well, you guys, one day I will find my Ferdinand too. Actually, no, I don't want a Ferdinand in real life. I already said that my fictional type is Ferdinand, but my in real life is in real life, you guys, I'm not into Ferdinand types. I don't like cold people. I like different kind of people. Like, not cold people, but like hard to read and very distant and stuff like that. I don't do well with that. I don't. I'm an overthinker. I need everything to be spelled out plainly. Like, give me a himbo. I don't care. Like, I don't care. Like, strong, outgoing, give it to me. I love it. Okay. Anyway, so that's... I think it's the delirium of my hunger, you guys. I need to go eat some lunch. I haven't even eaten breakfast, you guys. I gotta go. You guys need to go too. I'll see you guys later. Pre-pub peeps, I'll see you on Tuesday for pre-pub chit chat, and be on the lookout for an announcement on the channel of a watch party on Wednesday for Jane Eyre. Probably it'll be noon Pacific time. But so yeah, let's do this, you guys. Take care. I look forward to being with you guys again for the next book we shall read. I'll make the announcement later on for the next book. Until then, you guys, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Keep reading, and yeah, remember, just say no to temptation. Remember Jane Eyre. She's your role model, and when you find yourself in temptation, remember, look to yourself and to God for guidance. All right, bye everybody. Take care. Lovely to be here. Bye.